today and just see where it takes us in all this material. So Genesis chapter 4, verse 1. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. Now, this word Cain, all the names in the Bible mean something. And you may be able to even see, if you don't know Hebrew, that this word I have acquired and this word Cain, can you see that this is a final form of this same letter here? These are the same words, or nearly the same words in Hebrew. So Cain means something like the acquired one, or God's gift, something like that. And again, she bore his brother Abel. And just to point out this is the word Abel. And I'm just going to ask the computer to look up every place in the Bible where that appears. And there are hundreds of places, and if we went through them, we would find that most of them are similar to this place. All is vanity, striving after the wind. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. If we went to Jeremiah, the name Abel means something like foolishness, nothing, emptiness, vanity, nobody, vapor. And you think, wow, why in the world did Eve name one of those boys God's gift and one the nothing, nobody, vanity, whatever? So shows the importance of looking up the meaning of words, and so we're just going to read. Again, she bore his brother Abel. Now, Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry, and his face fell. The Lord said to Cain, why are you angry, and why is your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is to have you, but you must rule over it. Cain spoke to Abel his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where's Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, you have driven me today away from the ground, and from your face I will be hidden, and I will be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. And the Lord said to him, not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch, and he built a city, and he called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad fathered Mehujael. Mehujael fathered Methushael, and Methushael fathered Lamech. And Lamech took two wives. The name of one was Ada, the name of the other was Zillah. Ada bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the lyre and the pipe. Zillah also bore Tubal-Cain. He was the forger of all instruments of bronze and iron, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Now, all the names in the Bible mean something. We could look up all those names, but particularly important is this woman's name. Her name means the lovely one, okay? The lovely one. She was a knockout, drop-dead, gorgeous woman. What's that?
Was that
Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Adah and Zillah, hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain's revenge is sevenfold, then Lamech's is 77-fold. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth. For she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. To Seth a son was also born, and he called his name Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. This is the book of the generations of Adam. When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. Male and female, he created them, and he blessed them, and he named them Adam. That's the word in Hebrew there. When they were created. When Adam had lived 130 years, he fathered a son in his own likeness after his image and named him Seth. The days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. And Seth lived 105 years, and he fathered Enosh. And Seth lived after he fathered Enosh 807 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Seth were 920 years, and he died. And Enosh lived 90 years, and he fathered Kenan. Enosh lived after he fathered Kenan 815 years and had other sons and daughters. All the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. And when Kenan had lived 70 years, he fathered Mahalalel. And Kenan lived after he fathered Mahalalel 840 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Kenan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and he fathered Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he fathered Jared 830 years and had other sons and daughters. And thus all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and he fathered Enoch. Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Enoch had lived 65 years. When he had lived 65 years, he fathered Methuselah. Enoch walked with God after he fathered with Methuselah 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Then, when Methuselah had lived 187 years, he fathered Lamech. Methuselah lived after he fathered Lamech 782 years and had other sons and daughters. And thus all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And when Lamech had lived 182 years, he fathered a son and called his name Noah, saying, out of the ground the Lord has cursed. This one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toil of our hands. Lamech lived after he fathered Noah 595 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And after Noah was 500 years old, Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. May God bless the reading of his word this afternoon. So what do you find interesting about those two chapters, about those stories? What intrigues you about the stories, Persephone?
I got really confused when I
was talking to his wives? I am not sure what's going on there. That was really, really confusing.
Yeah, so we've got this like romantic dinner that he takes them to or something, and he says, "Oh, you lovely wives of Lamech, I've killed someone who wounded me, and I slaughtered a young person who, whatever, is less than that. If Cain is avenged sevenfold, I will be avenged 77-fold." And Persephone, that's like, you're struggling to get that.
I am, because it seems like he thinks he's cursed, just like the reference to Cain. Like, it seems like he thinks he's cursed for some reason. And like if he killed someone in self-defense, like, I mean, that seems acceptable. I don't know if it is, but it seems okay. But I got hung up because like they never addressed the fact that he had 2 wives.
2 wives. This is the first guy in Scripture that has 2 wives. God created 1 wife for Adam. This guy says if 1 wife is good, 2 wives are better.
Do we have meanings of the names of his wives?
We do. Jeff, you're a man after my own heart. We should look at what those words mean. And so I put that in your homework, and I purposely didn't tell you how to find out the information because I believe you're smart college students, and you can figure out how to find information like that. So how did you find out what their names mean? Go to Google. What do biblical names mean, and what did you find on Google?
I did it 2 days ago.
That's right. A lot has happened between now and then.
Well, at least he worked ahead of time.
So sometimes you can go to Strong's Concordance in the back. It'll tell you what a name means. I think there are resources on the internet called The Meaning of Biblical Names. The gold standard in that, of course, is to go to the original language and look that up. You may have to go to a friend or go to, there's some online websites. And this is the word, Ada. The closest I can tell, it means something like jewelry. So it's like lovely trinket or something. Her name, was this very positive thing. And Zillah, her name is positive too, but I can't quite remember. Sweetness, an allusion to the sweetness of the feminine voice. So it's like jewelry and sweetness. That's his 2 wives. Lovely one, I don't know. It sounds like 2, like, what do you call those pet names when you have an effect, like Sweetie or something like that. So that's their names. But I think Persephone's question is like mega important. I mean, a lot of people say, well, I can't understand the Bible. I can't understand what the Bible means. Well, that's probably true. When we come and we read like 52 chapters and we never stop and ask the great question Persephone's asking, we've got to think about these stories. We've got to interact. God knew, some of this stuff is going to appear strange, and sometimes we don't need to read 20 chapters. We need to read 1 chapter and ask good questions. So you tell me, why in the world Lamech, he's having this romantic dinner for his 2 wives, And, you know, he's trying to say something to him, and the thing that he pulls out to say is, I've killed somebody who wounded me, and someone who struck me, a little kid who struck me. I slaughtered the daylights. Does that seem like a strange thing for a man to say to his wives?
It sounds like he's bragging about it.
Perhaps that's what he's doing, saying, I am a multi-murderer. Oh, well, my goodness, my heart just swoons in affection. You're a multi-murderer.
There might be some type of warning, like, don't get on my bad side or it will happen to you.
That's exactly what it is. Somebody wounded me, I killed him. Somebody slapped me, I slaughtered the daylights out of him. And what's he saying to his wives?
Don't cross me.
You know, you get uppity with me, I'll kill you that fast. That's exactly what he's saying. Rachel?
Does it have to do with like how Cain, his revenge, it could have been killing Abel, not for something that Abel actually did wrong, but because he was jealous of Abel, and so Lamech, it's sort of like a sinful sort of like jealousy, and so he's killing them.
We've got the first murderer, right? And down the line, we've got a multi-murderer who's using those murders. Not only is he a first multi-murderer, but could you not make the argument with these two questions, he's a first wife abuser? He's saying to Sweetie and Jewelry, look, you know, things are really good, but don't you start thinking that this is any kind of equal relationship, because I kill people when they cross me. And I'll kill you, and you better have my dinner on the table, and you better do exactly what I say, because I won't think twice. I'll kill you too. That's exactly what he's saying in the story. So is Lamech a good guy or a bad guy? Yeah. Hebrew word, right. He is not a good character in the story.
I think it's kind of interesting that the more generations we go through, kind of the worse people start.
The word, right. And I saw Jackson and then Persephone again.
In verse 24, whenever he says if Cain's revenge is sevenfold and Lamech's is 77-fold, is he trying to use like Cain's story to justify himself?
I think what he's saying is, if you think God struck vengeance on Cain, you just cross me. Which is ridiculous. I mean, if he's dead, how's he gonna? But he's just like so threatening as a person. He's saying, if you think the judgment of God was bad, you just should see what I do. I mean, this guy is a wicked, wicked person. Persephone and then Jack.
I'm just wondering why, if he's so like cranky and mean, why have two wives? Like, one seems like it would be enough.
You would think, would you not? So he has two. Jacob has 2 plus 2 employees. David has like 12, and Solomon has like 300 and 400 mistresses. One's enough, you know, and like 1,000, really? I mean, Solomon. But all that goes back to this. This was not God's design. But this is how it played out a few generations later. So would you grant that the story is saying that Lamech is a wicked person? And would you grant that his polygamous marriages are less than ideal? I mean, he wants something from those women, but it's not an intimate relationship of equals. It's servants to him. And he's willing to threaten their lives to get it. Well, tell me about Lamech's family. Are they successful people or unsuccessful people?
They seem very,
Tell me your name again. Ethan.
they seem very successful because one of his sons was the father of tents, and those who dwell in tents and have livestock.
First mass farmer. So the first guy to figure out how to mass farm, he was that guy.
And
Let's translate that to today. So who would he be today?
Rancher.
Yeah, he's a huge rancher. Okay, next guy.
and the father of all those that play the harp and flute.
Okay, translate that to today.
Musicians.
Ed Sheeran or something, you know. Or, okay. Next guy.
And an instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron.
Let's translate that to today.
Well,
Jeff Bezos, you know, guy who invented the internet or something. I mean, this is technology that every single person alive will benefit from. And okay, that's 3. I thought there were 4. What's the 4th one?
no,
Naamah.
we don't know about her.
We don't know about her,
Except that she's pregnant.
but we know her name.
So what's the name mean?
What does the name mean? I'm glad you asked. It means the lovely one to look at. Okay, so all 4 of these kids have a virtue. What's her virtue?
She's what?
Translate it today. Who is she? What is that girl's name? Gigi Hadid or something? I mean, or I got that wrong. Or she's a supermodel, right? So we got a rancher, a rock star, an internet startup guy, and Miss Universe. That's his 4 kids. Help me with that. What seems odd about that to you? Or does any of that seem odd? Here's this multi-murdering, wife-abusing polygamist, and he has 4 incredibly gifted children.
I mean, these things are kind of all the things that are the creation of man. So once we start to get into like what people are actually like, we get into the things that they made, people making tools, people doing like getting ranching down to a science, people recognizing what beauty is and creating music.
Yeah. Tell me your name again.
Michael.
Michael.
It seems like everything they're doing is successful, even though he's done these like terrible things in his life.
Yeah, so he's a terrible person, but is he successful?
His children are successful, but he's not successful. That it states.
Yeah. Just a wild question. Is this the kind of family you would like to marry into? So father-in-law Lamech would be kind of, but would you marry into the Amazon fortune? Would you marry into, you know, the rock star fortune? Would you marry into, you know, would you marry Miss Universe? Yeah, she's a pagan, but oh, you laugh, Chloe. You laugh. Am I making that up or not? Do you think someone would find that tempting to
Yeah.
say, I know she's not really from godly parents and she's not really interested in the things of God, but she is Miss Universe. But that would be sinful if you did that, right? And who knows, maybe all that is just meaningless speculation anyway. Do you find it odd that Naamah is the only named girl in the genealogy, other than the wives of Lamech?
I think it was normal back then.
What's that?
I said, I think that was normal back then. It's like that for most of the Bible.
So was Moses having a bad day and he just put the woman's name in there, or is there a reason for the woman's name?
One of the things I've noticed, I think only in Genesis, but when a woman's name is mentioned, she's usually really important. Like Dinah, when they had that whole
Only named one, she's tremendously important.
yeah, when they had that whole thing with the Philistines, like so it seems like she's really important to be in here.
Okay, so how is she important? I totally agree. Like, I 100% agree that she is massively important, but how is she important in this story? We never hear of her again. You ever go to a movie and like you watch the first 3 minutes and all this weird stuff happens? And then you watch the rest of the movie and you're driving away and you wonder, why'd that weird stuff happen at the beginning? You ever do that? So we can vote. It's meaningless. God was trying to get, 2 million characters. He really didn't have enough to fill everything, so he just filled it up with kind of meaningless, make the font big, blow the margins out. It's still, let's just put some mindless detail in there. No takers.
Sorry.
Oh,
I do have a question.
yes.
I think in my search of what the names mean, I read somewhere that, what was her name again? How do you pronounce it?
Naamah.
Naamah was the name of Noah's wife.
Let's hang on to that.
Okay.
Let's hang on to that. So we have a genealogy in 4. We have a genealogy in 5. What are the differences between the genealogies in 4 and the genealogies in 5?
Number 4 is more in detail of all of them, because, like, if you go to chapter 5, basically just gives like the firstborn, and it says, and ever sons and daughters, and then died.
Yeah, with Lamech,
Not only that, but in chapter 4, it mentions how long everybody lived for. So you don't see that.
I think it's the other way, isn't it? It's 5. It's 5 gives you the dates, no dates in 4.
And in chapter 5, it also mentions that Lamech had Noah, like he was Noah's father.
Yeah, Lamech was Noah's father.
Then why didn't it mention that in chapter 4 when it was mentioning all of his other?
Yeah, okay. So we got a problem, don't we?
Noah gets his own kingdom.
Oh, it's this.
So we got 2 Lamechs. One of the reasons we don't understand the Bible is because sometimes to understand the Bible, you're going to have a pencil and a piece of paper. And if they give you stuff, write it down, look at it, think about it. We read it too fast. If God gives us information, there's a reason why we're getting that information. So these are the generations of. That's given in 5:1. Do you know there are 14 of those in the Bible? Do you notice the book of the generations of Adam, the book of the generations of Jesus? Do you think there might be something to all that? Or should we just skip it? Let's skip it. So here's our genealogy. Adam, Cain, Enoch, Irad, Mehujael, Methushael, Lamech. So how many is Lamech from Adam? 7. So Lamech is the 7th one from Adam. Cain is a murderer. Lamech is a multi-murderer. Adam, perhaps, we don't know for sure, but perhaps he's the original sexual sinner in choosing beautiful Eve over God. How does that sexual sin play out in his offspring? Well, by the time Lamech comes along, he's willing to abuse women. He's going to abuse 2 women. People learn from that. 4 women, 10 women, as many as you can get away with is how it plays out over time. The sexual corruption, perhaps, that we see in the forefather produces murderers and you know, maybe you could argue that Adam is actually the first murderer because he murders himself spiritually and he murders all his natural offspring. Now, when you compare the second genealogy, what do you notice?
Enoch kind of stands out.
Enoch stands out. Lamech is 7th. Enoch is 7th. The opposite. And Rachel, how are they opposite?
Because Lamech did something like really evil. He was an evil man and like abused his wives, and Enoch lived in the walk with God.
Yeah, now, are these perfect people in this line? What does it say when Seth was born? Men began to what? And what are they calling on the name of the Lord for, do you suppose? Sorry? Help. I mean, what kind of world are they all seeing at that point? A murderous, perverted world. And they're saying, look, we're the natural offspring of Adam, and we're in big trouble because the seeds of corruption that were in our forefather, they're in us. We need help. God, help us. And how does that play out? Well, you get someone who's a sinful person, but who walks with God, and does God push them away or does God take them? God takes them. Those are the 2 genealogies. Would you grant that there's meant to be a comparison between the 2 genealogies? Would you grant that? And that Lamech is somehow the epitome of self-rule, and Cain says, look, God, I know you provided a sacrifice, but that's bloody. That I want you to accept me based on the work of my hands. If we took time to look up these names, did you pick up that some of these names are religious names? Anyone who looked up? So these are people who've rejected God, but they haven't rejected religion. What does it produce? It produces successful people who are scoundrels. 6:2, where we didn't read, it says, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive. How does that strike you? Sons of God saw that the daughters of man were beautiful.
Confused as to what point we started differentiating between things.
You have an obvious question, or do you not? Who are the sons of God and who are the daughters of men? So here's our genealogy. 7 and 7. And then here's our problem. Why is this guy have the same name as that guy? Oh, I heard somebody make a great guess. Why in the world? I mean, most of you hope to have children, right? Have you thought about names, those kids? Okay. Is Adolf Hitler going to be on that list? Oh, you laugh. I'm offended. Yeah. Charles Manson. Idi Amin on the list. Pol Pot on the list. Huh. So if you're Methuselah, why in the world would you name your son after a multi-murdering, wife-abusing polygamist? Maybe you married his, and remind me what her virtue was again. The other three had virtue. What was her virtue?
Beautiful to look at.
She's a real looker, right? Let's say they married. Why would they name their kid Lamech?
Maybe because the other Lamech.
They're naming their kid after her dad. That's what I said. And God says, when that intermarriage happens, that's it. I'm going to judge mankind. Does that happen elsewhere in the Pentateuch where people intermarry with pagan beautiful wives? Oh, you mean like the first audience the first people who heard Genesis read, they were in the plains of Moab and Balaam had said, if you want to really mess these people up, just find the most beautiful pagan women you can. They'll intermarry, they'll introduce idolatry, and then God can judge them because they'll turn from God to pagan idol worship. Use the beauty of a pagan woman to turn Israel away from God and toward paganism, and then that will destroy these people. Now, the text doesn't say that, does it? All it does is give two genealogies. So we have to question, how carefully does God want us to read this? Does God want us to read it in a way where we're asking questions like, why in the world is this guy named after that guy? They can't be the same guy because Lamech can't have two fathers, right? Let me ask another question. back to this Cain and Abel thing. Why would Eve name one son God's gift and name the other the nothing, the emptiness, the vanity? Do you find that strange? You know, you show up for kindergarten the first day and say, well, who are these boys? Well, this is God's gift, you know? And this is nothing. God's gift, it's time to eat. Nothing, go clean your room up. I mean, did you hear how harsh that is? Why did Eve name Abel nothing?
Since Cain came first, he might have meant more to her.
Might have meant more. Jeff?
Kind of set them up for the sense of pride that Cain had. and
Oh,
that Abel had.
which one of those is in Dad's business? Cain. He's in the Pentateuch. Who do you put to watch over sheep? The youngest. Okay. You look at those two boys. Which one had the most natural gifts? Just looking at the two of them, would you imagine? Cain. Maybe there was something wrong with Abel. She names him nothing. She names Cain God's gift. Abel brings animals to slaughter in his worship of God. Where did he learn that? Is it Ethan?
Yeah. From when God sacrificed.
When God slaughtered an animal, clothed him in the death of that animal. And so here's a nothing, a nobody. And what's the only thing that he has to commend himself to God?
The vegetation.
The provision, right? Abel.
Okay.
Why in the world would Cain reject that?
Because he wasn't able.
He was unable. Canaan unable.
Because it wasn't Dad's business.
Also, Cain did more work than Abel did. If you look at it, he had to work the ground, get the vegetation and crops up and running, make sure it water properly. And then Abel, he just had to watch the sheep and kill one of them every now and then.
Yeah.
At what point did they name the children? Did they name them when they're born or after?
I don't know. Did Eve see something in Abel's birth that made her pick that horrible name? Do you see how perhaps this is foreshadowing the meta-narrative? That there are two groups of people, one who comes with the provision that God had provided and says, look, I'm a nothing, I'm an emptiness, I'm a vanity. I have nothing whatsoever to commend me to you, but you've made a way, I'm submitting to your way, and does God accept that person? Yes. There's a second group of people who will come and say, look, this is kind of a backward, bloody thing. I don't need God to be good. I can be good on my own. I'm smart, I'm good, I'm moral. I don't need some bloody sacrifice to give me peace with God. I'm good enough where my work will earn the affection of God on my own. Do you see why Cain might have been conditioned to think that by Eve? Every time his name was called, you're somebody, you're smart, you're the gifted one, you're the one who's going to inherit Dad's business. Not like that stupid backward brother you've got. You are somebody. And maybe after a while, Cain starts believing that, thinking, I am somebody. I am smart. I am good. I don't need death to cover over my sin. I can conquer sin on my own. And notice, when Cain rejects that, God doesn't reject him at first. He says, if you do what's right. Now, what is what's right in that context? Coming in utter helplessness and submitting to God. If you do that, but if you don't, sin's crouching at your door. It desires to have you, and you're going to have to overcome it on your own. It's very telling that the next verse says he killed his brother. Sin was crouching and sin got him. That's the meta-narrative story of the Bible. There are two ways to God. You can come in utter helplessness as a nothing and receive the provision that God made, or you can try to use the works of your own hands to commend you to God. And good luck with that if that's the way you try. It hasn't worked out for other people. We have the two genealogies. And we have this second Lamech. And now we're going to have to ask the question, well, what about Noah? Noah was a righteous man. And that's what we're going to pick up on Friday.